Over the years, numerous strange discoveries have emerged, sparking intrigue and speculation. One such revelation involves an anonymous hacker who claimed to have accessed NASA's secure databases, uncovering high-resolution images that allegedly depict a massive opening above the North Pole. Recently, an anonymous source uploaded a series of documents and images online, asserting that they were retrieved from NASA's classified archives. Among these materials were detailed satellite photographs showing an enormous circular gap in the Arctic ice, along with additional anomalies captured at the South Pole. The hacker insisted that these images had been intentionally concealed from public view, hinting that the opening could be linked to unknown phenomena or undisclosed knowledge about Earth's structure. The released images showed a vast, dark, circular void in the icy landscape, appearing almost as if it were an entrance leading beneath the surface. Surrounding ice formations were clearly visible, reinforcing the idea that this was not a mere shadow or optical illusion, but an actual structure of unknown origin. According to the hacker, the photos were taken using NASA's advanced imaging satellites, which are primarily deployed to study Earth's environmental changes, ice shifts, and atmospheric conditions. The claim of an enormous opening at the North Pole immediately attracted researchers. Some believe this could be the earliest photographic evidence supporting long-standing theories about hidden realms within the Earth. Others argue that the images might be misinterpreted, possibly representing natural ice formations or geological shifts, rather than something more mysterious. Anonymous has pointed out that NASA has been monitoring the Arctic for decades, using state-of-the-art satellites to track climate shifts and ice melt patterns. However, one of their members emphasized that among the thousands of images taken, one stood out, a perfectly circular void in the polar ice, seemingly too symmetrical to be a natural occurrence. The stark contrast between the ice-covered terrain and the dark chasm at its center has led many to believe this could be an entryway to something concealed beneath the Arctic. The implications of such a discovery are profound. Theories surrounding the nature of this opening range from scientific explanations to more speculative and controversial ideas. Some suggest it could be an unprecedented environmental event, a collapse in the ice caused by unknown geological forces. Others speculate that it could be a gateway to hidden underground caverns, supporting theories of a partially inner system where unknown civilizations or ecosystems may exist. A particularly controversial interpretation suggests that the opening could be linked to secret military installations or classified governmental projects. Given the remote and inhospitable nature of the Arctic, it would be an ideal location for hidden research facilities. Some theorists believe the void may serve as an entry point to underground bases or experimental projects that have been concealed from the public for decades. The lack of official acknowledgement from NASA or other space agencies only fuels these suspicions, leading many to believe that the truth is being deliberately withheld. Beyond the speculative theories, the discovery of such an anomaly carries significant scientific and geopolitical implications. If this opening is a natural formation, it could indicate drastic changes in Earth's climate or tectonic activity that require immediate attention. Interestingly, recent discoveries have revealed that beneath Earth's surface lies an ocean larger than all of the world's surface oceans combined, along with mountains that surpass the height of Everest. These groundbreaking findings challenge everything we thought we knew about our planet's interior and suggest that the Earth's core is far more complex than previously believed. Instead of being entirely solid, new research indicates that a portion of an ancient planet may still exist deep within, a remnant from the violent cosmic collision that formed the Earth billions of years ago. Oddly enough, during Admiral Richard Byrd's historic expeditions to Antarctica in the 1920s and 1930s, reports of UFO sightings became increasingly common among members of his crew. Numerous accounts from Byrd's expeditions detail luminous objects moving rapidly through the sky, hovering over ice shelves, and vanishing into the depths of the Antarctic wilderness. Despite numerous attempts to rationalize these sightings, many remained puzzled by the sheer inexplicability of the phenomena. Admiral Byrd, an American naval officer born in 1888, devoted his career to leading ambitious explorations and uncovering uncharted territories. Recognized as one of the most accomplished polar explorers, he served as a navigator on multiple expeditions to the North Pole, the South Pole, Antarctica, and the Arctic. Among his most extraordinary claims was that he had discovered a route to Agartha, a legendary city believed to be located within the Earth's core. Byrd's journey began after he graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1911, later receiving flight training at the U.S. Naval Air Station in Pensacola, Florida. One of the most controversial aspects of Byrd's explorations is the claim that he ventured into the Earth's interior. In 1947, while serving in the U.S. Navy, Byrd allegedly embarked on a flight that did not merely pass over the North Pole, but instead led him into a mysterious inner world. According to entries from his personal journal, Byrd travelled 1,700 miles beyond the pole, encountering lush landscapes, lakes, rivers, and unfamiliar flora and fauna. The most astonishing part of Byrd's journal describes an encounter with unidentified aircraft that escorted him into this hidden realm. These craft, unlike anything he had seen before, indicated the presence of an advanced civilization. Byrd's writings suggest that the beings he encountered granted him access to Agartha due to his high moral and ethical character. These inhabitants expressed concerns about the future of the surface world, warning of the destructive path humanity was taking. They sought to establish a dialogue in an attempt to safeguard both their civilization and the outer world from mutual destruction. After this life-altering experience, Byrd and his team were reportedly escorted back to the surface. According to his accounts, the North and South Poles are not simply frozen wastelands, but gateways leading to a hidden world beneath the Earth's crust. He also described theories proposed by earlier scientists who believed that the Earth's interior contained its own sun, illuminating a vast inner world. Byrd's descriptions suggest that the poles are convex rather than concave, contradicting mainstream geological models. If true, this would imply the existence of vast openings that could allow aircraft and ships to enter this concealed domain. Supporters of the Agartha theory believe that Byrd's findings were initially reported by American media but were swiftly suppressed by a coordinated international cover-up. Ray Palmer, editor of Flying Saucer magazine, published an in-depth article discussing Byrd's discoveries. However, reports suggest that the US government swiftly intervened, confiscating and destroying nearly all copies of the publication. The printing press plates used to produce the issue were allegedly seized and destroyed. A similar fate befell an article in National Geographic that detailed Byrd's findings. Shortly after publication, authorities reportedly went to great lengths to collect and eliminate nearly every copy in circulation. This suppression raises a compelling question. If Byrd's claims about Agartha were baseless, why would there be such an intense effort to erase them? A mere myth or misinterpretation would not warrant such extreme measures. Instead, the level of secrecy surrounding Byrd's discoveries suggests that he may have uncovered something far more significant than what has been publicly acknowledged. To this day, the mystery of Admiral Byrd's expeditions continues to captivate researchers, theorists, and historians alike. The mystery of the Nemi ships. The Nemi ships were two ancient Roman ships that were discovered in Lake Nemi, near Rome, in the early 20th century. The larger of the two ships was over 70 meters long and was considered one of the largest ancient ships ever built. The Nemi ships were built by the Roman Emperor Caligula in the 1st century AD as floating palaces for his personal use. They were incredibly luxurious and had features such as heated baths, mosaic floors, and marble columns. The Nemi ships had heating systems. They were built with hypocausts, which were a type of underfloor heating system used in ancient Roman times. The hypocausts consisted of a series of channels and flues beneath the floors of the ships, which allowed hot air to circulate and warm the rooms. In addition to the hypocausts, the Nemi ships also had other heating features, such as furnaces and boilers, which were used to heat water for the baths and to provide heat for other areas of the ships. The heating systems of the Nemi ships were an impressive feat of engineering for their time, and they demonstrate the advanced technological capabilities of the ancient Romans. After Caligula's passing, the Nemi ships were scuttled in the lake and remained underwater for almost 2,000 years until they were discovered in the 1920s. The Italian government raised the ships from the lake in the 1930s and put them on display in a museum built specifically for them. Unfortunately, both of the Nemi ships were destroyed during World War II, and today only a few fragments remain. However, the story of the Nemi ships has captured the imagination of historians and the public alike, and they remain a fascinating example of ancient Roman engineering and extravagance. The Nemi ships are an example of brilliant engineering for their time. The ancient Romans were skilled shipbuilders and engineers, and the Nemi ships were a testament to their expertise. The Nemi ships were some of the largest and most elaborate ships of their time, and they were built with a high degree of craftsmanship and attention to detail. They were also designed to be functional, with features like the hypercaust heating systems and other amenities that made them comfortable and livable for their occupants. The fact that the Nemi ships were scuttled and sunk in Lake Nemi and yet remained preserved for almost 2,000 years is a testament to their durability and the quality of their construction. The mystery here is that the ship's discovery proved that the ancient Romans were capable of building large ships. Historians, scholars, and researchers often ridiculed the idea that the Romans were capable of building such a large ship, but due to the Nemi ship's discovery, it's caused historians to admit that they were wrong about Roman technology and said that it caused them to question what they were capable of. The mystery of Greek fire. Greek fire was a weapon used by the Byzantine Empire in the medieval period, primarily during the 7th to 12th centuries. It was a highly effective incendiary weapon that could be used to set enemy ships on fire and cause chaos and destruction on the battlefield. The exact composition of Greek fire is not known with certainty, as the recipe was a closely guarded secret. However, it is believed to have been a type of liquid fire that could stick to surfaces and continue to burn even when exposed to water. Greek fire was typically deployed using a flamethrower-like device called a siphon, which allowed the user to direct a stream of the liquid fire towards their target. It was also sometimes launched in pots or jars, which would break upon impact and release the fire. One of the reasons that Greek fire was so effective was that it was difficult to extinguish. Water could actually make it burn more intensely, and attempts to smother it with sand or other materials were often unsuccessful. The use of Greek fire helped the Byzantine Empire to fend off numerous attacks by enemy forces, including the Arab and Viking fleets. However, over time the technology and techniques for creating and deploying the weapon were lost, and by the 14th century it was no longer used in warfare. The exact composition of Greek fire is not known, as no written records of the formula have survived. However, historians have been able to identify some general characteristics of the weapon based on historical accounts and contemporary descriptions. Historians have detailed some of the general characteristics of Greek fire. It was a liquid fire that could be sprayed or thrown at targets. It was highly flammable and burned fiercely, even when exposed to water. It was difficult to extinguish and could continue to burn on water. It could be directed at a specific target using a siphon or similar device. It was sticky and could adhere to surfaces, making it difficult to remove. It was effective against both people and ships. It could cause panic and confusion among enemy troops, helping to break their morale. Although Greek fire is a mystery, historians and researchers have said that Greek fire was a highly effective and feared weapon that helped the Byzantine Empire to defend against numerous attacks. Its exact composition may never be known for certain, but its general characteristics make it clear why it was so effective on the battlefield. What's underneath the Great Sphinx? The question of what is under the Great Sphinx in Egypt is a topic of much debate and speculation among archaeologists and historians. The most widely accepted theory is that there are tunnels and chambers beneath the Sphinx, but their purpose and contents remain unknown. Some archaeologists and Egyptologists believe that the tunnels and chambers may have been part of the complex system of tombs and temples that surround the Sphinx and the nearby pyramids. Others speculate that the chambers may have been used for religious or ritual purposes. In recent years, there have been claims that there may be a secret chamber or even an entire underground city beneath the Sphinx, but there is no scientific evidence to support these claims. It's important to note that any excavation or exploration of the area around the Sphinx would be subject to strict regulations and permits, and any discoveries would need to be carefully evaluated and documented by archaeologists and other experts. With that being said, technology has revealed that there is evidence of tunnels and shafts beneath the Great Sphinx at Giza, but their purpose and extent are still a matter of debate. During various excavations and surveys of the Sphinx and its surrounding area, researchers have identified a number of tunnels and shafts that appear to be of ancient origin. The purpose of these tunnels and shafts is not entirely clear, but they are believed to have been part of the complex system of tombs and temples that were built during the Old Kingdom period in Egypt. Some researchers have speculated that the tunnels and shafts may have been used for religious or ritual purposes, or as a means of accessing the underground water table. One idea is that of the Hall of Records. The concept of a Hall of Records hidden beneath the Great Sphinx is a popular but unfounded claim that has been put forward by a number of researchers who've studied ancient Egypt. The idea of a Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx can be traced back to a series of 19th century articles and books by French author Edgar Cayce. According to Cayce, the Hall of Records was a vast library of ancient knowledge and wisdom, containing information about the lost civilization of Atlantis, as well as other lost civilizations and technologies. As of right now, mainstream scientists have said that there is no archaeological evidence to support the existence of such a hall, and the theory has been dismissed by mainstream scholars. Moreover, the idea of a vast underground library being hidden beneath the Sphinx raises many practical questions, such as how such a structure could be constructed and maintained without leaving any trace or evidence. The mysterious Wandjina cave paintings. The Wandjina cave paintings are a collection of ancient rock art located in the Kimberley region of Western Australia. These paintings are believed to have been created by the indigenous people of the region, known as the Wandjina or Wandjina people, who have lived in the area for tens of thousands of years. The Wandjina cave paintings are known for their distinctive style and their depictions of humanoid figures with large round eyes and no mouths. These figures are believed to represent the Wandjina spirits, who are considered to be the creators of the land and the guardians of the people. The paintings are typically made using red and white ochre and are found in a variety of locations, including caves, rock shelters, and overhangs. Many of the paintings are located in remote and difficult-to-reach areas and are considered to be of great cultural and spiritual significance to the indigenous people of the region. The Wandjina cave paintings are thought to be among the oldest examples of rock art in the world, with some estimates suggesting that they may be as much as 40,000 years old. They are an important part of the cultural heritage of the Wandjina people, and are also recognized as an important archaeological and artistic resource by the wider world. Due to the depictions of humanoids, it's caused some to suggest that the figures are actually extraterrestrials, further noting that these interpretations can be seen in various cave paintings across the world and suggest that perhaps ancient humans came into contact with something otherworldly. However, historians have said that the Wandjina cave paintings do not depict aliens and say that the figures depicted in the paintings are believed to represent the Wandjina spirits, which are an important part of the indigenous religious and cultural traditions of the Kimberley region of Western Australia. The sea serpent spotted by the crew of HMS Daedalus. The sighting of the HMS Daedalus sea serpent occurred on August 6, 1848, when crew members of the British Royal Navy ship HMS Daedalus reported seeing an enormous sea serpent in the waters of the mid-Atlantic Ocean. According to the accounts, the creature was said to be around 60 feet long, with a head resembling that of a snake or a lizard, and a neck that rose approximately 6 feet out of the water. The creature's body was described as being thick and covered in scales, with a coloration that alternated between light brown and black. It was also said to have humps on its back that moved up and down in a wave-like motion. The sighting reportedly lasted for around 20 minutes and was witnessed by several crew members, including the ship's captain, Peter McQuay. The creature was said to be moving at a speed of around 15 miles per hour and appeared to be heading east. The incident gained widespread media attention and sparked a great deal of debate and speculation about the existence of sea monsters. Some skeptics dismissed the sighting as a misidentification of a known creature, such as a giant squid or a whale, while others believed it to be proof of the existence of previously unknown species. Oddly enough, this creature was sighted and described by those who spent the majority of their life at sea, and so researchers into the unknown have said that they would easily be able to identify sea creatures local to the region, saying that this adds weight to the theory that the crew encountered a mysterious unknown creature. In the years since the sighting, there has been much speculation and analysis of the accounts, with some suggesting that the creature may have been a hoax perpetrated by the crew, or that it was a misidentification of a known animal. However, the sighting remains one of the most well-known and intriguing sea monster reports in history. The mystery of Sri Lanka's Stargate. The Sri Lanka Stargate, also known as the Kotuwe Card Stargate, is a mysterious artifact located in Sri Lanka that has long fascinated scholars and enthusiasts of the paranormal. The artifact is a circular stone disc, measuring approximately 3 feet in diameter, with intricate carvings of cosmic and geometric patterns. The origins of the Sri Lanka Stargate are shrouded in mystery, with some theories suggesting that it was created by an ancient civilization with advanced knowledge of astronomy and cosmology. The carvings on the disc are said to depict a variety of celestial objects, including stars, planets, and galaxies, as well as symbols and diagrams related to ancient religious and spiritual traditions. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Sri Lanka Stargate is its alleged ability to act as a portal or gateway to other dimensions or realities. According to some accounts, the disc was used in ancient times by priests or shamans as a means of accessing other realms of consciousness or communicating with beings from other worlds. While the claims of the Sri Lanka Stargate's supernatural abilities remain unproven, the artifact continues to fascinate researchers and enthusiasts of the paranormal. Some have even speculated that the disc may have extraterrestrial origins, or that it may hold the key to unlocking the secrets of advanced ancient civilizations. Despite the intrigue and speculation surrounding the Sri Lanka Stargate, the artifact remains a subject of debate and controversy within the scientific and archaeological communities. While some believe that the disc may hold important clues to unlocking the mysteries of the universe, others are skeptical of its alleged powers and origins. Despite the uncertainties surrounding the Sri Lanka Stargate, its mysterious carvings and intriguing history continue to capture the imagination of those who seek to understand the secrets of the universe and the mysteries of the past. Whether or not the artifact holds the key to unlocking these secrets remains to be seen, but its continued study and investigation will undoubtedly inspire new discoveries and insights for years to come. The mystery of the lost city of Paititi. The city of Paititi, also known as El Dorado, is a legendary lost city that is said to be located somewhere in the jungles of South America, possibly in the Andes Mountains. It is believed to be a vast, wealthy metropolis that was hidden away by the Inca civilization to keep it safe from Spanish conquistadors during the 16th century. According to the legend, the city is made entirely of gold and other precious metals, and contains vast treasures beyond imagination, including artifacts, gems, and precious stones. It's also said to be home to a powerful ruler who possesses great wisdom and knowledge, and who is protected by a fierce army of warriors. The story of the lost city has captured the imaginations of explorers, adventurers, and treasure hunters for centuries, and many expeditions have been launched in search of the lost city. However, despite extensive searches and investigations, no concrete evidence of the city's existence has ever been found. The legend is believed to have originated from the traditions of indigenous peoples in South America and has been passed down through generations. Some historians and archaeologists believe that the story may have been inspired by real-life events, such as the flight of the Inca Emperor Atahualpa during the Spanish conquest of Peru, when he is said to have hidden vast amounts of treasure in the Andes Mountains. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the legend of Paititi continues to inspire speculation and fascination, and the search for the lost city remains a popular topic among adventurers and explorers. The location of the city of El Dorado is uncertain and has been the subject of much speculation over the years. According to legend, the city is believed to be located somewhere in the jungles of South America, possibly in the Andes Mountains, but the exact location has been a mystery for centuries, with many explorers and adventurers launching expeditions to try to find the lost city. Interestingly, some have suggested that the lost city is in the Amazon rainforest. As of today, researchers and explorers are constantly making interesting discoveries in the Amazon rainforest, with one of the most recent finds being that of ancient pyramids and roadways. Archaeologists have said that there are ancient archaeological sites and ruins scattered throughout the Amazon region, including impressive examples of pre-Columbian engineering, such as causeways, mounds, and terraced hillsides. The Amazon rainforest is a vast and largely unexplored region, and there is always the possibility that new archaeological discoveries could be made in the future. Despite many claims and rumors of sightings, no concrete evidence of the lost city's existence has ever been found, leading some to believe that it may be purely a mythical place. However, the legend of Paititi continues to inspire speculation and fascination among many, and the search for the lost city remains a popular topic among adventurers and explorers. The Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine. The Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine is a legendary mine said to be located somewhere in the Suppression Mountains of Arizona, USA. According to the legend, the mine contains a vast fortune in gold and other precious metals, and has been sought after by treasure hunters and adventurers for over a century. The story of the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine dates back to the mid-19th century, when a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz, also known as the Dutchman, claimed to have discovered the mine while prospecting in the Suppression Mountains. According to Waltz, he had stumbled upon a vein of gold so rich that he was able to collect large quantities of ore simply by scraping the surface of the rock with a knife. Over the years, the story of Waltz's discovery grew into a legend, and many treasure hunters and adventurers attempted to locate the lost mine. However, despite extensive searches, the mine was never found, and Waltz himself passed away without revealing its location. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the legend of the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine continued to inspire fascination and speculation, and many theories and stories emerged about the mine's location and the fate of those who sought it. Some claimed that the mine was guarded by supernatural forces, while others suggested that Waltz had taken the secret of its location to his grave. In the decades that followed, countless expeditions were launched in search of the lost mine, and many stories emerged of treasure hunters who had supposedly discovered it, only to meet with misfortune or disappear under mysterious circumstances. However, despite the persistent search, the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine has never been definitively located. Today, the legend of the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine remains a popular topic among treasure hunters, adventurers, and folklore enthusiasts. While some believe that the mine is purely a myth, others continue to search for its elusive location, hoping to uncover the vast fortune that is said to lie hidden in the Suppression Mountains. The Sumerian civilization, nestled in the fertile lands of Mesopotamia, is renowned for its pioneering contributions to human history. Among its many achievements, the Sumerians left behind intricate carvings and artifacts that offer tantalising hints of their advanced understanding of various aspects of life. A subject of intrigue and debate in recent times has been the presence of what appear to be timekeeping devices, often referred to as Sumerian watches, depicted in these ancient carvings. Intriguing carvings and depictions found in Sumerian artifacts have captivated researchers and enthusiasts alike. Among these carvings, some appear to portray what modern eyes might interpret as wristwatches. These objects, nestled on the wrists of various figures, stand out as anomalies within the context of ancient Mesopotamia. The Sumerians were renowned for their advanced understanding of various scientific, mathematical, and astronomical concepts. They were early architects of complex mathematics, the cuneiform writing system, and even the concept of the 60-minute hour. However, the existence of wristwatch-like devices raises questions about their potential knowledge of timekeeping mechanisms that would seem technologically incongruous for their era. In the carvings, individuals are depicted with cylindrical objects resembling modern wristwatches on their wrists. These objects display circular shapes and are accompanied by peculiar appendages that suggest possible crowns or dials. The specificity of their placement and design has led to speculation that these depictions could indeed represent timekeeping devices of some kind. While the idea of wristwatches in ancient Mesopotamia may seem anachronistic, it's important to remember that ancient civilizations had various means of measuring time, often using sundials, water clocks, and celestial observations. The Sumerians, with their advanced knowledge of astronomy, might have devised mechanisms to track time with impressive accuracy, even if they differ significantly from modern wristwatches. Some scholars argue that the wristwatch-like objects may not have been intended to represent functional timekeeping devices. Instead, they suggest that these objects could carry symbolic or ritualistic significance. In ancient cultures, time was often intertwined with religious and cosmic beliefs, and the depiction of these objects could have carried deeper meanings related to the passage of time and the cosmos. The presence of these wristwatch-like objects highlights the complexity of Sumerian culture and the intricacies of their artistic representation. Whether the carvings truly depict timekeeping devices or not, they provide a unique window into the Sumerian perception of time and the objects they associated with it. The depiction of wristwatch-like objects on Sumerian carvings remains a subject of intense debate. Skeptics argue that these objects could be simple adornments, amulets, or representations of tools unrelated to timekeeping. Furthermore, they point out the limitations of Sumerian technology in producing actual wristwatches as we understand them today. The presence of Sumerian watches on ancient carvings invites us to reflect on the challenges of interpreting artifacts from bygone eras. It underscores the delicate balance between recognizing the sophistication of ancient civilizations and avoiding the imposition of modern perspectives onto their achievements. Regardless of whether the wristwatch-like objects were functional timekeeping devices, symbols of cosmic significance, or artistic renderings, they serve as a reminder of the mysteries that linger in the shadows of ancient history. These enigmatic carvings compel us to continue our exploration of the Sumerian civilization, its beliefs, and its contributions to human progress. The Sumerians' knowledge of the cosmos. The clay disc contains a star map from ancient Sumerian civilization. The ancient Sumerians had a certain level of astronomical knowledge, as seen in their records. Unfortunately, much of this knowledge has been lost over time, and only a few fragments remain to give us a glimpse into their understanding of the universe. The Babylonian astronomical knowledge, in comparison to the later standards of Babylonian astronomy, seems relatively rudimentary. Ancient clay tablets from Babylon that have withstood the test of time since the beginning of Mesopotamian civilization document the earliest recorded instance of a total solar eclipse observed in Ugarit. The majority of our knowledge regarding their involvement in ancient astronomy comes from the Babylonian culture, which indirectly transmitted this information. In early Babylonian records, Sumerian star names are used, indicating the existence of a shared body of knowledge that was passed down through generations. A Sumerian seal depicts the sun positioned in the middle of 11 celestial objects. The Sumerians appeared to possess knowledge of the heliocentric nature of the solar system. Within certain tablets, they documented the presence of 11 celestial bodies or planets. The celestial bodies known as planets and moons, traditionally totaling 9 planets and 2 moons, have been observed. However, there is some uncertainty surrounding the exact composition and understanding of these bodies in relation to their rotation around the sun. A 12th celestial object has been discovered outside of our solar system. Scientists are currently engaged in the endeavor of identifying an entity that potentially exists in an orbit beyond the outer planets of our solar system. The knowledge of our solar system was already present among the Sumerians, who lived about 3,000 years before the ancient Greek astronomers. They recorded their understanding of the solar system on clay tablets, using cuneiform writing and illustrations. This information predates the ancient Greeks' knowledge of the subject by several millennia. The Sumerian civilization is widely regarded as the birthplace of human civilization and is recognized as the oldest in human history, with a history that dates back more than 8,000 years. This ancient settlement and civilization emerged in the region known as Mesopotamia, which encompasses present-day Iraq, parts of Iran, Anatolia, and Central Asia. The Sumerians had a highly developed culture and society, encompassing a well-established government, educational institutions, social structure, reliable food sources, religious beliefs, artistic expression, advanced mathematics, astronomy, astrology, medicine, various technologies, and numerous significant innovations. The ancient civilization developed a method of written communication utilizing wedge-shaped symbols known as cuneiform. They meticulously recorded their historical information and documents on clay tablets. Moreover, they demonstrated their innovation by creating musical instruments like the golden harp, as well as crafting exquisite jewelry, metallic objects, stoneware, and textiles. In the Sumerian cosmology, the universe was intricately woven with mythology and spirituality. The Sumerians believed that the universe was populated by a pantheon of deities who held sway over various aspects of existence. Enlil, the god of air and storms, and Anu, the god of the heavens, were just a few of the celestial beings believed to influence human affairs. The Sumerians closely observed the movements of celestial bodies, attributing significance to their positions in the sky. The cyclical patterns of the sun, moon, and stars were seen as reflections of the divine will, affecting everything from agricultural cycles to the fates of kings and kingdoms. The celestial bodies were considered divine messengers, carrying messages from the gods to the earthly realm. Ziggurats, towering stepped temples, were architectural marvels that dominated Sumerian cityscapes. These structures held profound cosmological significance, often being built with precise astronomical alignments. Ziggurats were designed to mirror the celestial order, with their corners aligned to the cardinal points of the compass, paying homage to the heavens and symbolizing the connection between the earthly and divine realms. The Sumerians believed in a hierarchical cosmic order where the divine and mortal realms were intricately interconnected. They viewed the universe as a structured continuum, with the gods residing in the heavens above and humans inhabiting the earthly plane. This belief fostered a sense of responsibility to maintain harmony and appease the deities through offerings and prayers. Their strange creation myth. One of the biggest mysteries of the ancient Sumerian culture appears to be that of the inspiration and tale of their mysterious creation myth. According to the ancient Sumerians, their oldest scriptures tell of the earth being inhabited by human-like gods that had come from the stars. These beings made attempts to make the world habitable and quickly began to toil the soil and mine the world for minerals that could be used. After a while, the gods referred that their labor was too great and refused to have to work at such an impossible task on their own. This led to one of the gods proposing to create human beings that could be made in their likeness using the body of another god of whom they could force to work to gather minerals and toil the ground. Originally, the humans that had been created were unable to reproduce and have children, as the gods were fearful of them multiplying. However, this quickly changed after two gods granted humans the ability to reproduce, allowing them to also leave the Eden they inhabited, a land that is translated to mean a flat terrain. This angered one of the gods, leading to a massive conflict to which one of the gods became the enemy of man and the other became the ruler of man, and allowed them to be fruitful and multiply over the world. These terms of modifications, creation, and the formation of an Eden have left many wondering instead that perhaps these ancient biblically similar accounts are evidence of advanced beings having genetically created and modified humans as a labor force, only to be given equal rights and abilities that have slowly evolved. The mysterious origin of their language. Though many aspects of the ancient Sumerian origins are shrouded in mystery, there is none more so mysterious than that of the origin and formation of the ancient Sumerian spoken language that is possibly among one of the oldest spoken and written languages in the history of humanity. When the first few written artifacts were gathered from that of the ancient Sumerian civilization, many believed that the spoken language of the ancient civilization was that of Akkadian, a language used by the Semitic people throughout the region, as the written alphabet of cuneiform seemed to have matched the Akkadian writings and styles. Further gathered evidence proved that the language of the people was a distinct language now completely forgotten, with no surviving remnants of the spoken dialect that predated the Akkadian usage, as well as being the first formed written language in history, soon being adopted by the Semitic people and used as a written language for many more millennia after the fall of the ancient Sumerian civilization. This loss of the language have left many experts puzzling over its formation, influence, and possible similar-sounding language descendants in the modern day to trace the evolution of language across humanity. Though it was, at one time, believed that the Akkadian language was similar to that of the Sumerian, given the adoption of cuneiform, it is now known that the language may not have sounded anything alike and seems to be a relic of the past, with no evidence or trace of such a dialect existing in the modern day. Uncovering the mysteries of the language could prove to help researchers to better understand the formation of languages, the evolution of languages over time, as well as the major influences that the ancient Sumerian civilization had, being one of the first ever civilizations to have risen around the world. Throughout history, various ancient civilizations and cultures have left behind intriguing artifacts and symbols that continue to baffle archaeologists and historians. One enigmatic motif that has captured attention is the depiction of a handbag in ancient carvings, sculptures, and artworks found across different countries and cultures. Interestingly, a man came forward and said that he discovered one of these handbags in the Middle East. He went on to detail that he's a digger that looks for ancient artifacts and notes that many of his discoveries have been sent to museums across the world. He shared this photograph with us, saying that it was his most recent discovery and that it closely resembled those handbags that can be seen in ancient Sumerian carvings. The man said that the handbag is a symbol characterized by its distinct shape and handle, and has been discovered in diverse regions and time periods. From ancient Egypt to Mesopotamia, from Mesoamerica to Easter Island, representations of this enigmatic object have been unearthed, suggesting a shared significance across vast distances and cultural boundaries. The handbag appears in reliefs, statues, and hieroglyphs, raising questions about its symbolic meaning and potential cultural exchange. Oddly enough, he said that when he discovered this artifact, someone approached him about buying it. He found this strange, as at the time he didn't tell anyone about the discovery, and found it odd how this individual knew about this object. The digger said the man was very keen to buy it and asked whether anyone had seen it, at which point he said that he hadn't shared any photographs of it. What the man found strange about this individual was how badly they wanted this artifact, and the digger said that to this day this was the most expensive item he sold, saying that the mysterious individual gave him tens of thousands of dollars for it. When the digger asked the man about his name and where he was from, he said that the strange individual ignored him, but did say that before he left, the man said that if he found any more of these items, that he would be in contact. The digger found this strange, as he had never seen this man before and couldn't understand where he came from and how he knew about this discovery. Luckily enough, the digger had taken some photographs of the objects shortly before he was approached and was able to share them with us. As of right now, the digger is baffled by the experience and couldn't understand why the man wanted the object so desperately. He didn't take a photograph of him, but did describe him as being very tall, wearing a black suit with black shoes and talking in a very monotone voice. He said that he's never seen the man before and that he didn't blend in with anyone from the area. The digger said that he has no idea where the artifact was taken or whether it was purchased by a museum or for himself. Scholars and researchers have proposed various interpretations for the handbag symbol. Some believe it represents a vessel of power or knowledge carrying the secrets of ancient civilizations or spiritual wisdom. Others associate it with the concept of rebirth, symbolizing the journey of the soul or the transition between different realms. The handbag has also been linked to prosperity, suggesting a connection to rituals or beliefs related to sustenance and growth. The presence of the handbag symbol across different cultures and geographical locations highlights the possibility of cross-cultural connections and exchanges in ancient times. It suggests that ancient civilizations might have shared ideas, concepts, or even physical artifacts through trade routes, migrations, or cultural interactions. The symbolic journey of the handbag implies a common thread that unites seemingly disparate cultures in their understanding of the world and its mysteries. The handbag symbol has sparked numerous theories and speculations. Some propose advanced influence, suggesting that ancient civilizations received advanced knowledge or technology from otherworldly beings. Others interpret it as a symbol of a lost civilization or an ancient global culture that predates known history. However, these theories remain speculative, and further research and archaeological evidence are necessary to provide conclusive explanations. The enigmatic handbag symbol found in ancient carvings across cultures and countries continues to captivate the imagination and provoke questions about our shared human experience. Its presence suggests a common language of symbolism that transcended time and geographic boundaries. While interpretations vary, the handbag remains a potent symbol representing mystery, power, and hidden knowledge. Unraveling its true meaning requires interdisciplinary research, comparative analysis, and a deeper understanding of the cultures that left behind these ancient depictions. The handbag symbol invites us to embark on a symbolic journey, connecting the threads of humanity's past and offering a glimpse into the universal concepts that unite us. The ancient Sumerians, who inhabited the land of Mesopotamia, present-day southern Iraq, between the 4th and 3rd millennia BCE, were a remarkable civilization that laid the foundation for many aspects of human culture and civilization. Central to their worldview was a diverse pantheon of gods and goddesses, each associated with different aspects of life, nature, and the divine order. The Sumerian pantheon was a complex assembly of gods and goddesses, with each deity holding specific dominion over various realms. Among the prominent deities were Anu, the god of the heavens, Enlil, the lord of the air and storms, and Inanna, the goddess of love. The divine hierarchy established the power dynamics among the gods, with Enlil often regarded as the highest authority. Sumerian mythology featured captivating creation stories and narratives that explained the origins of the universe and humanity. One of the most renowned tales is the Enuma Elish, which describes the struggle for supremacy between the gods, culminating in the creation of the world. Another notable myth involves the epic hero Gilgamesh, who embarks on a quest for immortality, showcasing themes of mortality, friendship, and the nature of divinity. The gods played a significant role in Sumerian society, influencing various aspects of life, from governance and law to agriculture and warfare. The king, as the representative of the gods on earth, held a sacred role and derived his authority from divine endorsement. Legal codes and administrative systems were established with the gods' guidance, ensuring justice, order, and social harmony. Additionally, the gods were invoked for protection, success in battle, and bountiful harvests. Sumerian religion and mythology had a profound impact on subsequent cultures in Mesopotamia and beyond. One of the most significant contributions of the Sumerians was the development of the first known writing system, known as cuneiform. Using wedge-shaped impressions on clay tablets, Sumerian scribes recorded economic transactions, religious texts, historical accounts, and literature. Cuneiform was a complex system that allowed for the dissemination of knowledge, fostering the growth of literature and the preservation of cultural heritage. The Sumerians established some of the earliest known legal codes, such as the Code of Ur-Nammu and the Code of Lipit Ishtar, which laid the groundwork for later legal systems. These codes emphasized justice, fairness, and the protection of individual rights. Additionally, the Sumerians developed administrative systems, with officials responsible for taxation, record-keeping, and maintaining public infrastructure. These innovations facilitated governance and the efficient management of a growing society. The Sumerians had a rich and complex religious belief system centered around polytheism. They worshipped a diverse pantheon of gods and goddesses, each associated with different aspects of life, nature, and the divine order. Their religious rituals and ceremonies played a vital role in society, ensuring the well-being and prosperity of their communities. The legacy of the Sumerians extends far beyond their own civilization. Their inventions and cultural achievements heavily influenced later civilizations in Mesopotamia and beyond. The cuneiform script spread to other cultures, including the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. Legal principles and administrative systems developed by the Sumerians provided a blueprint for future governance structures. Sumerian myths and religious motifs influenced the pantheons and beliefs of subsequent cultures. The Sumerians laid the groundwork for the development of urbanization, agriculture, and complex social structures, leaving an indelible mark on human history. The Sumerians harnessed their ingenuity to improve agricultural practices and maximize productivity. They constructed intricate irrigation systems, such as canals and dikes, to divert water from rivers and distribute it to their fields. This allowed for year-round cultivation, enhancing crop yields and supporting a growing population. The use of the plough, pulled by oxen, revolutionized farming by facilitating efficient tilling of the soil and preparing it for planting. The Sumerians were skilled in working with metals, particularly copper and bronze. They developed techniques to extract and refine these metals, enabling the production of tools, weapons, and decorative objects. Copper and bronze alloys were employed in the creation of intricate jewelry, statuettes, and ornamental items, showcasing the Sumerians' artistic sensibilities and craftsmanship. The Sumerians recognized the importance of transportation and trade for their expanding civilization. They constructed road networks connecting various city-states and established river trade routes, utilizing boats and barges to transport goods along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Their mastery of watercraft allowed for efficient movement of goods, facilitating trade with distant regions and fostering cultural exchange. Sumerian architecture reflected their advanced understanding of engineering principles. They constructed impressive structures using mud bricks, designing multi-story buildings with flat roofs and intricate facades. The Sumerians developed innovative construction methods, including the use of arches, vaults, and buttresses, which provided stability and allowed for the construction of monumental edifices such as ziggurats and city walls. Joseph of Cupertino levitation. Saint Joseph of Cupertino is a character of legend. It's reported that by his mid-20s he was able to take to the skies and float around effortlessly. The beginning of Joseph's life was truly challenging and tragic. For one, his father passed away, leaving a mountain of debt that caused his family home to be confiscated. His mother was forced to give birth to him in a shed behind that house, inside which they hid from the creditors. She was far from capable of truly caring for Joseph, as he needed her to physically, mentally, and emotionally. She was unable to feed him well, and he was undernourished and sickly from the beginning. She became frustrated with him and could not hold back abusing him and taking out her frustrations on him. Later in life, Joseph was unable to learn at school or in an apprenticeship with a shoemaker. Many people who met Joseph supposedly reported him as dull and absent-minded, unable to form thoughts into speech and communicate like his peers. In fact, the only thing he seemed interested and capable of was becoming a servant of a monastery. He was transformed by this, became much gentler and kinder, and began begging for the poor. In time, he would be given another chance and become a Catholic priest in 1628. Many occurrences of Joseph's flights from then on are proclaimed. He was said to have flown up to plant a cross into its socket for some labourers, soar into the sky and hover over a crowd of people during a feast, and was even witnessed levitating by Pope Urban VIII. This earned him the nickname the Flying Saint. He was also reported to unblind and cure many sick children, so much so that the ill began to seek him out. Miracle of the Sun in Fatima. In 1917 in Fatima, Portugal, many people claimed to have witnessed the sun moving. As they looked up into the sky, it became a well-defined, dull, great white disk which spun around and moved about the sky above them. Some witnesses say they saw the sun come closer to them, while others saw everything in a deep amethyst colour. One thing is for sure though, this was no ordinary Friday. Around noon that day in Fatima, spectators of the phenomenon began to see a change in the atmospheric conditions. Prior to this, it had been muddy and wet, and the air around them seemed to change. Then, as described by one man who was present, the sun started breaking. Nobody had any clue what was going on, and their view of our nearest star began warping and shifting. It appeared to spin and whir around in the sky, changing colours, and some thought it even came closer to the earth. The wind started to blow. Witnesses began to confess their sins, and soon enough they realized the ground was dry. Their clothes were also dry. Many witnesses of this event believe it to be a true miracle, and supposedly the event quelled a growing atheist population at the time. Skeptics would probably point to optical distortions caused by clouds called sundogs, visual disturbances caused by staring at the sun, or even some sort of collective delusion. After all, there is no evidence that it rained as much as some witnesses claimed it did. Also, if the sun itself began moving and changing, it's likely that some of the millions of other people below the same sun would have reported the same things. All these people in Fatima, however, were there to witness a miracle told in Christian prophecy. It's quite possible that while expecting to witness a miracle, they happened to see some disturbances in their optical view of the sun due to clouds of ice crystals or stratospheric dust. While possible that reports such as that of seeing a violet hue over everything were due to retinal damage from staring at the sun for too long, the biggest hole in the story is that most of the reports of the event have differing details. Some saw purple everywhere. Some others saw a blue and yellow sun, and some say it was brighter, clearer, and closer. Regardless of what you truly believe occurred in Fatima in October of 1917, the phenomenon is historic and mystical. Iron Crown of Lombardy. According to historians, the Iron Crown of Lombardy was made during the early Middle Ages in the 4th or 5th century. It consists of a large ring of gold that is fitted with a silver band and some precious jewels, all fitted around an iron ring. It is believed that the Iron Crown contains a 1 centimeter wide iron band that was beaten out of one of the nails used at the crucifixion of Jesus. The crown became a symbol of the Kingdom of Lombards. Later, it was in the custody of the medieval Kingdom of Italy and was used for the coronation of kings in Italy during the 11th and 14th century. Today, this mysterious ancient relic is present in the Cathedral of Monza, which is located near Milan in Italy. According to the popular tradition, the crown was made by Saint Helena, who was the mother of Constantine the Great. She had discovered a nail from the true cross when she ordered to forge a crown around the beaten nail. She believed that it would bring blessings and good fortune to her son. Later, the crown was passed to Theodolina, who was a princess of the Lombards. She received it as a gift from Pope Gregory the Great. In 628 AD, Princess Theodolina donated the crown to the church in Monza. There has been a strong argument amongst the religious scholars over the authenticity of the nail that was used to forge the crown. To this day, there is no consensus about its authenticity. However, it is kept at the Cathedral of Monza just outside of Milan and is considered to be a sacred relic. According to the cathedral authorities, the inner iron ring of the crown is in perfect condition and has shown no signs of rusting, despite being made thousands of years ago. In one of the studies conducted in 1985, it was revealed that magnets do not get attracted to the crown's iron ring. Like many other artifacts associated to Jesus, this artifact is also likely to be a subject of debate amongst historians as well as the religious scholars for many decades to come. Soldiers share their mysterious encounters. Soldiers deserve the highest respect. Opinions aside, they go into areas where many of us will never tread, and they are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. Something that many soldiers don't expect to happen is having mysterious encounters while on duty. In recent years, military personnel have come forward and detailed some of the strange things that they've experienced while on duty. One soldier titled their post as "Strange Encounter While on Duty." They said the following: "I was a young sergeant in 2001, and I was stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base. I would often guard equipment, and it's known that the area is highly sensitive. Most of the time I would be on guard, and nothing interesting would happen. There were many times that I would be bored, and the job would be repetitive, but that all changed when I had a mysterious encounter. At the time, there were 2 of us who were on patrol, and it was my partner who first noticed something strange. In the distance, he claimed he could see a red light, and that every so often it would pulsate. We were located near the outskirts of the base, and so thought that it may have been an aircraft in the distance. Around 10 minutes later, both of us witnessed the bright light descending nearby. The 2 of us hadn't seen these lights before, so naturally we were both suspicious of what this was. We couldn't make out any insignia or any propulsion system. The aircraft would rise again to around 100 feet in the air, and once the object was within our sight again, we got a much better look. It was like a huge ball of energy, and was as if someone had shrunk the sun. As the encounter continued, we started to notice a pattern. The object would fly around the base, descend, and then fly into the air again, and it kept doing this over and over. While it was doing this repetitive motion, it was making no sound, and it was hard for us to keep track of it, because once it descended, we would lose sight of it. After this, the object darted towards us, and must have stopped within 40 feet, at which point we were able to see some closer details. This thing was a perfect sphere and moved around at extreme speeds. But the strangest thing was that it moved in an angular way, like if you were playing an old computer game and you had drawn out lines and then the object would follow those lines. It's hard to describe, but the movement wasn't fluid. It wasn't like a plane that has to turn slowly in order to maneuver, or a balloon that gets taken by the wind. Every time this object moved, it was always at an angle. Although the movements of this thing were jarring, the speeds it was hitting were incredible. And if you blinked, it would be in a completely different place. It was like the light would turn off and then reappear in another part of the sky. After around 10 minutes, the object just vanished, and we were no longer able to see it. It made me think that if my partner had not pointed out the strange light in the first place, then it's likely that I wouldn't have noticed it, especially because it made no noise. Our chief sergeant pulled me in for a conversation after catching wind of what we had encountered, and honestly, it didn't go the way I thought it would. I was thinking that I would be put down and told that I didn't see anything, but instead, those who were in the room seemed interested in the sighting. When I asked what this thing was and whether anyone else had seen it, I got very little back, but was told at the end that it would be best if I kept this to myself. Although nothing super eventful happened, I never got closure on what the object was, and still to this day think about how that strange light was able to hit the speed it did." End quote. Interestingly, there have been many reported sightings of a massive legendary creature that's been described as looking like a large humanoid. They are mostly sighted in remote areas, sometimes in urban areas, and very rarely in city parks. However, the most unlikely place you would think to see one of these creatures is near a military base. Throughout the years, there have been a few reports that have leaked from military installations, mostly those around the 1970s. By far the most notable and the most credible is that of an encounter near Fort Lewis in the United States. This is an Army military installation in Washington state, which is in the middle of a rather large wooded area. The year was 1978. A truck full of soldiers coming back from training exercises broke down at around 8 in the evening. Attempts were made to restart the engine, but nothing worked. So the platoon headed off to the base on foot to bring back a tow truck. They left one Edwin Godoy to guard the truck until the tow truck arrived. He was left because he was the one who had signed out the truck. Edwin spent hours by himself just sitting in the truck. He was bored, but his evening would soon perk up. At around midnight, he began to hear strange sounds from the forest that this road cut through. The sounds continued to get louder and closer, prompting Edwin to get out of the truck, arming himself with a rifle and a flashlight. As he stood in front of the truck, sweeping the sides of the woods with his flashlight, he caught a glimpse of a large object moving directly in front of the truck. It was a tall, broad creature entirely covered in hair that walked by swinging its body sideways. When Irvin shined his light at it, it stopped in its tracks and stared directly at him. They locked eyes for a short time before the creature began to run at him at a bafflingly quick speed. Irvin shouted 3 times for the creature to stop and identify itself. However, the beast didn't reply and got close enough to cause harm to Edwin. Gripped with fear, he shot the creature in the chest. This barely stopped the speed of the animal. It merely growled, grabbed its chest, and turned to the right and went back into the forest. In a few seconds, it was gone. After a long and fearful night, the mechanics finally arrived. After Edwin conveyed what happened, they were quite skeptical, until one spotted the blood trail that led to massive footprints pressed into the nearby soft ground. Shortly after, a radio call was made to the base explaining what had happened, and after doing this, the area was swamped with secretive government scientists in hazardous material suits. These researchers then began taking blood samples and setting casts of the footprints. The whole time, Edwin was told not to speak to anyone and was kept away from what was going on. Edwin was quickly taken away to the base hospital, but surprisingly, instead of being examined by the base's medical staff, he was examined by a doctor from the Air Force that held the rank of full colonel. Years later, Edwin went on to reveal in an interview after the event had been declassified that rather than interrogating him, the colonel was very interested in every slight detail of the event. After which, Edwin was returned to his barracks and told in no circumstances was he to tell anyone what happened. the NASA employee who went missing in the Grand Canyon. Back on the 17th of June 2016, a man by the name of Floyd Roberts III had gone on a hiking trip with a longtime friend of his, Ned Bryant, and his friend's daughter, Madeline Bryant. However, after several hours of hiking together, Floyd suddenly disappeared from the group. As the weeks went on and the investigation into the matter was never resolved, many began to wonder what exactly happened to Floyd Roberts within the very short span of time that he had wandered away from his group. According to Ned Bryant, he and Floyd had been lifelong friends since they were 10 years old, when they first met each other back in Princeton, New Jersey. Their friendship was so close that many would often think that Ned and Floyd were actually brothers. Their friendship would even coalesce and maintain throughout their entire lives, with Floyd Roberts serving as Ned's best man during his wedding several years prior. Unfortunately, due to work requirements and job opportunities, the two men were unable to live close to each other, with Floyd Roberts eventually moving out to the city of Huntsville, Alabama, where he spent a short period of time working as a software engineer for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. After a short time of working for NASA, Floyd Roberts moved once more to work as a computer programming and game design teacher at Middleton High School, located in Treasure Island, Florida. However, throughout this time, Floyd and Ned decided to stay close friends and would meet up regularly to do an activity together. It was back in 1992 when Floyd and Ned decided that they would start hiking around the Grand Canyon a few times a year, as it would be a fun activity for them to both do that would also allow them to take a break from their lives momentarily and get some much-needed exercise. These routine hiking trips would continue for over the next 20 years together, where the two men became highly experienced campers and hikers, familiar with the Grand Canyon as it was their only hiking route. Even more interesting, the two men were so interested in hiking that they would often travel alone in their free time whenever the other was unable to join, showing that both men had experience navigating the known pathways of the area, even when isolated and on their own. Several years later, Ned Bryant and a few other members of his family became board members of the Grand Canyon Hikers and Backpackers Association, often sharing tips with each other on the best pathways and means of travel throughout the area, and having been trained in travel safety when hiking through isolated parts of the Grand Canyon. Confident that the two would be perfectly safe during their journey, the men planned to take one of their longest hiking and camping trips yet, choosing to spend 9 days hiking through the Shivwitz Plateau, a pathway that would lead them out of the area through the Separation Canyon. Although the region was a typically less popular area to travel through, their decided route was considered to have been largely very safe, without any major pitfalls or ravines close to their trails. Additionally, the two men decided that the beginning of the journey would be the most relaxed and planned on spending the first couple of days camping alongside the major river in the area before making their way out of the canyon. After careful consideration, the two men planned their trip and decided that their hike would end after 9 days on the 26th of June, 2016. At the last minute, Ned's daughter, Madeline Bryant, decided to join the group, and so the group decided that the easiest path down towards the river they had wanted to camp beside for a few days was to first reach the Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument when entering from the furthest western portion of the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument is considered to be a remote location and terribly underdeveloped given the lack of tourists that tend to visit the area. According to official park services, there are no known paved roads or laid-out trails leading to the national monument and no visitor services of any kind. Regardless, the group decided the open area and the lack of tourists would be a perfect staging ground to enter towards the river without the stress of strangers crowding around the area. Once the group was several miles away from the main trailhead of the area, the three travelers found themselves traveling over a large hill. Given Floyd Roberts' preference for a longer traveling time to help take in the scenery, he decided that he would take the slow, rounding trail that followed the contours of the hill to reach the trailhead, whereas Madeline and Ned decided that a straight path over the hill would allow them to reach the trailhead faster and give them time to relax and take a quick rest. At around 4:45 in the afternoon, the group separated, with Ned and his daughter taking a straight-line path, and Floyd Roberts following the trail that wrapped around the side of the hill. Several minutes later, Ned and Madeline would reach the trailhead and decide to take a short rest, waiting for Floyd Roberts to catch up to them. However, after about 20 minutes of waiting, the two started to worry that something had happened. and immediately began retracing their steps to look for Floyd Roberts, who they assumed must have gotten lost somewhere along the contouring path. After spending several hours looking for Floyd Roberts, the two decided that it was too dark and dangerous for them to continue their search, and so made a campsite near the trailhead meeting spot in the hopes that Floyd Roberts would be able to locate them by their fire. Unfortunately, the two said that it appeared as if Floyd had just completely disappeared, and so Ned and Madeline hiked their way to the nearest area with cell phone reception to report Floyd Roberts as missing. The two reported Floyd Roberts' disappearance at around 3 in the afternoon on Saturday, June 18th. Almost immediately, a team of search and rescue working for the national park started their search for Floyd Roberts, covering a 10-mile radius of where he had last been seen by Ned Bryant and his daughter. The search and rescue originally showed up for the search efforts in high spirits, believing that Roberts would have been recovered quickly, given the fact that the weather in the area did not drop anywhere near freezing temperatures and stayed relatively high throughout the day and night. Additionally, Floyd Roberts had been carrying a week's supply of food and over 2 gallons of water in his backpack at the time of his disappearance, so it was believed that he would have more than enough supplies and years of experience to help him navigate his way towards help, if necessary. Over the next few days, an estimated 15 people were involved with the search and rescue of Floyd Roberts, with a team of sniffer dogs used to follow his scent. It was at around this time that a set of footprints had been discovered that followed down the direction of the trail that Ned and his daughter Madeline had claimed Floyd was last seen travelling down. As the dogs followed the trail, it appeared as if they had locked onto the scent of Roberts and continued in the direction of the footprints for several hundred feet before they suddenly stopped. Search and rescuers then noticed that the footprints of Floyd Roberts seemed to have suddenly disappeared, as if Roberts had been walking and then rose into the air and vanished. It was at this point that the National Park Service rescue helicopter was used to get aerial views of the surrounding 10-mile radius, but were unable to locate any signs of someone having fallen down any side paths or in any known areas. After 6 days of frantic searching and thousands of man-hours, the search and rescue for Floyd Roberts slowed down to a passive search. To this day, no sign of Roberts has been recovered. According to official search and rescue reports, Floyd Roberts was last seen wearing a red long-sleeved shirt, blue denim jeans, a large blue low alpine contour backpack, white-rimmed sunglasses with orange lenses, and 2 gallons of water with enough food to last him about a week. The disappearance of Margaret Mary Cola. On the 20th of February, back in 2011, a 53-year-old woman by the name of Margaret Cola would suddenly vanish after planning a short daytime visit to the Cummins Creek wilderness. Although investigators originally thought that Margaret's case was that of an inexperienced hiker traveling too deep within the national park forest, investigators would soon realize that Margaret Cola would frequently travel to the Cummins Creek wilderness to forage for wild mushrooms and truffles. According to Margaret's friend, Mrs. Cola had become quite familiar with the region and would often take weekly trips to the area with her 5-year-old Labrador Border Collie mix named Roscoe. Growing up in the seaside city of Waldport, Oregon, Margaret Cola had become highly experienced with the outdoors, Cummins Creek wilderness, and the surrounding trails, and was known by her friends and family as having been an avid hiker. Yet regardless of her vast amount of wilderness experience and her many safety precautions, Margaret Cola would seemingly vanish with no trace of her left behind. The search for Margaret would begin on the day of her disappearance after her friend contacted the local sheriff's department and claimed that she was unable to make contact with Mrs. Cola at their scheduled time. Due to her frequently traveling alone, Margaret was worried that if she did not take the necessary precautions, she could end up injured and stranded out in the national park without anyone knowing she was gone. It was for this very reason that Margaret told her friend prior to her trip that she was planning on taking Roscoe for a walk near the Cape Perpetua area. Although the last time Margaret had been seen was on the 19th of February, after getting an expected time frame of Margaret's itinerary from her friend, detectives were able to put an accurate time to when Margaret Cola had arrived in the area, believed to have been during the early morning. Within only 8 hours of her disappearance, the Lane and Lincoln County Sheriff's Department, alongside the United States Forest Service and the Oregon State Police, would begin their search and rescue efforts for Margaret and Roscoe. Oddly enough, after scouring several parking lots and common stops, the search and rescue teams were unable to locate Margaret Cola's vehicle. Given the fact that the investigators were unsure which trail Margaret Cola had followed, it made it increasingly difficult for search and rescue teams to efficiently check a tighter radius, forcing them to expand their search to a much larger area. Local volunteer groups had spent the better part of the first 2 days walking up and down the Cape Perpetua area, but were unable to find any tracks or signs of Margaret Cola having visited anywhere in the region. With the lack of any sign of Margaret's vehicle or equipment anywhere near the region, investigators started to wonder whether or not the missing hiker was even within the park. For this reason, in conjunction with the search and rescue efforts, the local sheriff's department would keep out a missing persons file for any information relating to Margaret's disappearance, worried that she could have been the victim of foul play or could have gotten into a car accident in an isolated area. It would be due to these suspicions that the search and rescue efforts were temporarily reduced over the course of about 2 weeks. It would not be until the 3rd of March that proof of Margaret having arrived in the park was found. According to the United States Forest Service, one of the Forest Service law enforcement officers had found Margaret's van on the side of Forest Service Road 1051 in the Cummins Ridge Trail area. The Cummins Ridge Road was a far deeper major pathway that was only accessible after driving south through an area known as Neptune State Scenic Viewpoint, past a coastal area named the Devil's Churn due to its history of supernatural sightings. Inexperienced hikers would not have been able to see that the small trail opens up into a much larger pathway, and so investigators were certain that Margaret must have visited the area several times in the past to know exactly how much room there would be for her vehicle. The vehicle itself was completely unoccupied, and after having been searched, a park receipt would be located that would confirm that Margaret Cola had reached the park sometime on the 20th of February. Immediately after the vehicle was discovered by the United States Forest Service law enforcement officer, a massive search would be conducted in the area for a 10-mile radius. Unfortunately, despite more than 50 volunteers involved in the search, no sign of Margaret or her dog Roscoe was uncovered. On the following day, a team of bloodhounds were brought to the abandoned vehicle to help find a trackable scent. However, due to the tremendous gap in time from Margaret's initial disappearance and the discovery of her vehicle, the experienced canine teams were unable to locate a scent they could track. Oddly enough, on the 5th of March, more than 2 weeks since Margaret had disappeared, roughly 2.2 miles south of where Margaret's abandoned vehicle was located, local search and rescue volunteers would find Roscoe casually walking along the area of 10 Mile Creek. Once investigators took a closer look at Roscoe, they were surprised to find that the dog appeared to have been in perfect health. Deputies with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office would make several attempts to get Roscoe to lead them to where Margaret may have been, but the dog seemed too playful and easily distracted, making it impossible for search and rescuers to get the dog to lead them back to Margaret. To this day, no sign of Margaret Cola has even been uncovered. Oddly enough, across many of the bizarre missing 411 disappearances, it's commonly reported that during a sudden vanishing, hikers who travelled with a dog will often have their canines show up several days after their disappearance, but with no sign of the hiker ever being uncovered. Even more peculiar, the returning canines will often seem to be in perfect condition, regardless of the weather conditions or the number of days missing, as if no time had passed for them in the interim. The disappearance of Keith Zunke. On the 24th of October, back in 1981, a 21-year-old man by the name of Keith Zunke would be reported missing after a very bizarre set of suspicious circumstances had occurred, leading many of the investigators surrounding the incident wondering what really happened. Not only would the circumstance of Keith's disappearance be extraordinarily peculiar, the legal documents surrounding Keith's disappearance would also appear to be mishandled in various ways following his vanishing, leading to increasing difficulties for the young man's search. According to Keith's mother, when Keith was a young boy, he had suffered an undisclosed injury that would leave him crippled for the rest of his life and cause Keith to suffer from issues with typical neurodevelopment. Although the injury itself is not known in the modern day, by the time that he was a teenager, it became apparent to doctors that Keith would never be able to develop past a mental age of only 5 years old, suffering from an extensive amount of brain damage. Due to these developmental issues, Keith would eventually be forced to live in a group home by the time that he was an adult, located in Walla Walla, Washington, after his biological parents felt that they were unable to properly care for him. It would be shortly after his 21st birthday, while living in the Washington group home, that Keith would suddenly be at the center of a bizarre missing persons case that would be impossible to explain under normal circumstances. According to the official search and rescue document, it was on the 24th of October, back in 1981, while living at the Stone Creek Lodge Group home located in Washington, that the group home administrators decided that taking a small trip together with all of the home's residents would be a nice change of pace for the residents. By that afternoon, all 39 residents would be driven to the Umatilla National Forest to go on a mountain hike through Oregon, east of the Cascade Range in the northeastern section of the state. The administrators of the home would later tell investigators that out of all of the residents, only 2 members objected to the trip and wished to stay at the group home instead. One of those 2 that would object would be Keith. Once at the Umatilla National Forest, Keith and another resident would both get into an argument with the administrators and refuse to continue with the hike any further, after walking a few hundred feet down a trail with the group. After the tantrum, the councillors would become fed up with Keith and the other unnamed resident, and would instruct them to return to the vehicle to wait in the car for the remainder of the trip due to their behavior. However, at this point, the stories of the administrators and the residents begin to start cracking. According to some of the residents, Keith and the other unnamed resident had been accompanied with a group home administrator to return to the vehicle, though the other councillors and administrators on the trip would deny the claim and state that Keith and the other unnamed resident had travelled back to the vehicle while unsupervised. Once the group had finished with their hike and returned to the vehicle, they found the unnamed resident in the vehicle alone and with Keith nowhere to be found. Immediately, the councillors and administrators would question the unnamed resident, but were unable to get any reasonable information surrounding Keith's whereabouts, and so would soon contact the local law enforcement shortly after. Within the hour, the United States Forest Service and the local sheriff began a massive search for Keith, utilizing an estimated 500 search and rescue volunteers for the event. These volunteers included members from the local military, nearby law enforcement, native residents and teams of air support flying overhead for several hours a day looking for Keith. Unfortunately, despite searching non-stop for an estimated 10 days and covering nearly 50 square miles of area, no sign of Keith was ever recovered, and the search and rescue for the 21-year-old man would soon come to a standstill. It was at around this point that investigators began to grow suspicious of the parties involved. Keith's biological mother, Mrs. Rebecca Carroll, would give information to the investigators, claiming that Keith had the mental age of a 5-year-old and would have been unable to have wandered very far from where he had last been seen. Given the fact that the other unnamed resident was also unable to provide any useful information, it appeared that the entire event held a few more skeletons in the closet. It would not be for another 30 years until news surrounding the case would come forward. According to the Huffington Post, the remains of Keith were discovered by a hiker during the summer of 2011, but what was left of Keith was so damaged and scattered, investigators were left with very little. Although the remains were easily identifiable as human, they appeared to have been partially buried in a shallow grave, forcing investigators to first confirm that the remains were not from a possible Native American burial site. After the remains were confirmed as not belonging to an old Native American burial ground, investigators removed the remains and sent them to a forensic anthropologist and Oregon State medical examiner. Unfortunately, very little could be done with what was left. According to the investigators, Keith was no longer classified as a missing person. This meant that any evidence surrounding his DNA was not kept, and so Keith's DNA was not on file to be compared with the discovered remains. Additionally, because of the state of the remains, the Oregon State medical examiner said that he was unable to confirm a cause for Keith's passing. No other information has surfaced surrounding the incident since the article was reported. The mysterious disappearance of Michael and Makana Gortler. On the 22nd of June, back in 2011, a father and daughter would suddenly vanish when going on a hike to the summit of Mount Missouri, located in the state of Colorado. Although the 2 experienced hikers would reach the summit at around 14,000 feet, their remains would tell a completely different story when investigators would conduct a thorough investigation into the matter. According to the missing persons report, 53-year-old Michael von Gortler and his daughter, 20-year-old Makana von Gortler, would leave their home in Boulder, Colorado on the 14th of June to spend the summer going on a series of hiking and climbing trails together over the span of about a week. Michael, who worked as an emergency room physician in the city of Boulder, Colorado, had often visited the nearby trails and mountain ranges over the years and had become quite an experienced outdoorsman, hiker and climber across the many Colorado mountain ranges. Additionally, Michael's daughter, Makana, who studied out of the University of Colorado, majoring in ecology and evolutionary biology, would often spend her entire spring, summer and winter vacations between school going on long hiking and camping trips with her father to get pictures of the natural wildlife and ecology of the local area. Makana would also be considered by many close friends and family as having been extremely experienced in both hiking and climbing, and both Makana and her father were in excellent physical shape at the time of their disappearance. It was later uncovered by investigators that Michael and Makana would spend the majority of their week-long camping and hiking trip at the father's second home. Michael's second home was a small summer house located in the town of Buena Vista, roughly 150 miles west of Boulder. It was also believed that Michael and Makana would spend that first week together, traveling to the town of Telluride and attending the Bluegrass Festival before returning back home to the summer house in Buena Vista in order to make several preparations. It would be there that the two hikers would spend several days planning their trip to Mount Missouri, including acquiring several updated maps to help plan their routes, purchase and replace new equipment for their climbs, and stock up on extra emergency gear in the event of sudden bad weather conditions or any unforeseen issues. Although their precautions may have seemed too cautious, considering the fact that the two only had plans to camp around the base of Mount Missouri for a few days and then hike the summit of the mountain before returning back to the base of the mountain on a short day trip, Michael Gortler was known for being over-prepared when it came to hiking and camping journeys. Prior to their departure, Makana would send a text to her longtime boyfriend, a man by the name of Paul Casimir, that the two were headed up to a mountain trail with a summit measured at being 14,000 feet, but that her phone had been left on the roaming setting due to their cellular network connection being out of range, and that she would be unable to text or call, as she wanted to avoid using data as her data plan was more expensive when it came to using roaming data. The text she had sent would later be confirmed with a local ABC News article, which would publish the text to the boyfriend. The text would read as follows: "I just got back to Buena Vista with my dad. I left my phone on roaming so I can't talk. We had a great time and we're going to try a 14er tomorrow. I'll be able to see you in a few days. I've missed you too." The 14er would be a reference to the height of the mountain, with Makana's cryptic message, meaning that the two would be attempting to climb a summit estimated around 14,000 feet. The night before their disappearance, on the 22nd of June, at around 12:23 in the morning, Makana would send one last text to her boyfriend Paul, which would state the following: "We're hiking Mount Missouri tomorrow, staying the night here, then driving back the 23rd. I will help my dad pack the next day, so I can see you on the 25th, and we can celebrate whatever month we're in now." After a few days passed, Paul would fail to get any reply or message back from either Michael or Makana, and would begin to worry that something strange had happened. By the 24th, Paul would grow increasingly disturbed by the lack of reply that he would reach out to Makana's mother, Michael's wife, Mrs. Dea von Gortler, and ask her when the two were expected to return back to Boulder and why the two were not returning his texts or phone calls. At first, Dea would reassure Paul that the two were most likely taking their time coming back from the trip and would return sometime on the 24th of June or the 25th, but that she would reach out to Michael and Makana to check up on them. After spending a few hours trying to reach her husband and daughter and failing to get in contact with them, Mrs. Dea von Gortler would contact the Chaffee County Sheriff's Department to report the two as missing and to do a checkup on their whereabouts. At first, the search for Michael and Makana went slowly, as investigators first wanted to confirm that the two were still in the area of Mount Missouri and not back at their Buena Vista summer home. After driving an estimated 3 hours to the summer house, Mrs. Dea von Gortler would confirm that her husband and daughter were missing, and after several hours of searching, the Chaffee County Sheriff's Department would locate and find Michael von Gortler's vehicle parked at the Mount Missouri parking lot located at the base of the mountain. Almost immediately upon finding the vehicle, the Sheriff's Department would organize one of the largest ground and aerial searches conducted in the state, alongside the local military and other law enforcement organizations. On the first day of the search, the nearby military base would utilize a state-of-the-art Black Hawk helicopter to help carry search and rescue volunteers near the summit of the three surrounding 14,000-foot mountains. While ferrying people, the military would also utilize thermal imaging cameras and other sensitive equipment in the hopes of locating the missing 2 hikers within the first few days. Over 40 search and rescue volunteers would be brought to the summits of the mountains, an estimated 12 volunteers per peak, and would help to cover over 1,000 feet in elevation that first day, but no sign of the missing hikers were found. Investigators were worried that their search efforts may have been in vain, as the area of the mountains and their summits were completely barren and held very little foliage, making it difficult to explain how it was that aerial support was unable to spot the brightly clothed pair from the sky anywhere along the route. Even more strange, an article published in the local news would also claim that by the 8th day of the search for the missing father and daughter, it was believed that search and rescue volunteers, the Sheriff's Department, United States National Forest Rangers, and the nearby military base had covered more than 800 square miles of terrain, both by ground and air, and were unable to find any sign of the missing pair. It would not be until the 10th day of the search that investigators would finally recover the missing father and daughter, when the search helicopter was in the middle of depositing another group of search and rescue volunteers on the summit of Mount Missouri. According to the helicopter pilot, as he was descending onto the summit, the pilot claimed that he saw something incredibly unusual in the forest area directly below their passing location. Although the pilot would never describe what he saw that was considered distinctly unusual, rumors from search and rescue volunteers claimed that he saw what looked like a large figure in the area that seemed difficult to explain. Unsure of what it was that was seen, the pilot would send the volunteers into the area where they would find 2 individuals. According to the volunteers, the hikers were not immediately identified as belonging to Michael and Makana, as they were injured and disfigured beyond recognition. Though the pair would later be confirmed as having been the missing father and daughter, there was initially no declaration of their identities, and several other bizarre events would take place that would make missing 411 investigators suspicious as to the nature of the recovery. A group of search and rescue volunteers would claim that the couple were found in a forested area far from any ledges or cliffs, somewhere around the 12,000-foot elevation mark on the mountain. Another group would claim that they were found lying atop an open field of grass around the similar elevation mark. However, despite these conflicting stories, no confirmation of either account would be made, leading many missing 411 investigators with the suspicions that a bizarre cover-up had taken place. It would take another few days before the coroner could confirm the identity of the injured pair as belonging to Michael and Makana. However, even more peculiar, the coroner and sheriff's department worked together in order to provide an explanation of what happened to Michael and Makana, as both the coroner and sheriff's department were confused as to the exact location where they were found and the exact nature of their demise. The Chaffee County Sheriff's Department would hold a press conference on the 5th of July, claiming that the discovery of where Michael and Makana were found came as a total shock to the investigators. It was hard to understand how any accident could have occurred, as the von Gortlers had been at a high elevation and appeared to have been suffering from injuries inconsistent with a fall. Additionally, the Sheriff's Department would confirm that the weather had been exceptionally good at the time of their expected demise, as there was no measured wind, no clouds, and no sudden weather shifts that could have led to any accidents for the pair. In all considerations, the day of their disappearance was a perfect day for a short hike to the summit and back down. The most confusing statements would come from several interviewed searchers on a live broadcast from the NBC 9 Denver news station, which would claim that it was believed that the pair had to have reached the summit and fallen while they were descending the summit along a hiking trail. The searchers would claim that less than 200 feet from the summit, the pair fell. However, the Chaffee County Sheriff Pete Palmer would tell reporters that it was difficult to confirm the theory, as the distance and placement of the hikers was both too far and in too awkward of a location for the pair to have fallen from only 200 feet from the summit. The sheriff would also provide the statement to the news reporters, claiming that they were not sure where they were when they fell, as none of the information they had seemed to match up. In one report, searchers would claim they believed that the pair had fallen 200 feet from the summit while descending. Another report would claim that the bodies of the father and daughter were found in a densely forested area at the 12,000-foot elevation point, and a third report would claim that the pair were found much closer to the summit, laid out on grass. Even more peculiar, The coroner's office would claim that the damage and injuries of the pair were consistent only with a fall estimated to have been at least 1,000 feet in height at a 60-degree grade, which would have been impossible to have suffered from if only a few hundred feet from the summit, or at the 12,000-foot elevation point. Chaffee County Coroner Randy Ametis would also make several increasingly bizarre statements to reporters, claiming that the only thing known for certain was that Dr. Michael von Gortler and his daughter, Makana von Gortler, had both passed away from blunt force trauma injuries to the head and neck at almost the exact same time. At first, the coroner believed there was evidence of burn or scorch marks, but would later confirm that there was no indication of injuries caused from lightning, a strange statement that seemed both unwarranted and inconsistent. Randy Ametis would also confirm that due to the condition of the pair, it was believed that the two had passed away on the 22nd of June, the same day that the hike had initially begun. Despite the inconsistent information and data, the coroner's office would confirm that the passings were officially declared as accidents, and it was believed that no crime had been committed. The coroners would provide relatives of the von Gortler with the explanation that the two had most likely been blown off the cliff from a significant gust of wind, despite reports of clear skies and low winds. However, one of the most difficult to explain aspects of the coroner's report were the lack of injuries to other parts of the hikers. According to the searchers, Michael and Makana had to have fallen at least 1,000 feet to explain their injuries and location. At the height and steep grade, injuries would be expected to be seen across them, including small and large scrapes, bruises, torn clothes, and small and large rocks around their remains. However, the coroner's statements only included claims and descriptions that Michael and Makana had died from blunt force trauma to their head and neck, without making any other statements about injuries to the torso, legs, or other regions of the body. Given the fact that Michael and Makana, who were experienced hikers and climbers, were believed to have been on an easy trail at the time of their fall, Chaffee County Sheriff's Officer Pete Palmer would express disbelief at the mystery of their passings. A local article would publish a statement provided by the sheriff's officer and their skepticism in the middle of July, stating the following: "It hasn't been any kind of atrocious weather, and the other thing is both these people were experienced hikers," Chaffee County Sheriff Pete Palmer said. Palmer says that what happened is a complete mystery. While steep, the Missouri Mountain Trail is only ranked as a Type 2 climb, which is fairly mild. Authorities say it didn't appear the two had taken a fall. The search and rescue volunteers would also express confusion surrounding the location that the hikers were recovered. It seemed impossible to explain how the hikers were not found until the 10th day of the search in an area so close to the summit and believed to have been checked several times over by volunteers during the first week of the operation. Helicopters had also been flying in and around the area every single day since the disappearance, and not a single person had seen the pair in a location that the two were expected to have been hiking in. To this day, the mysterious passings of Michael and Makana von Gortler have been the subject of many theories and continue to be regarded as one of the most mysterious and unexplainable accidents recorded in the Colorado mountains.